What up, family? This is the first video I've brought to you in a long time. This is obviously Rose Red coming to you with Juggalos at Night. I'm talking to you a lot about the Dark Carnival and that era of ICP. They're coming into a new Joker's card set, so I wanted to go over the first set of cards here. Sorry, got a lot on my mind, surgery in a couple days, so you might be seeing a lot more videos from me as I'll be down for a few weeks with nothing to do but bring videos to my Fumble followers. Alright, so let's start with this. The Dark Carnival itself sparked a lot of debate in the Juggalo community as far as what it actually means. There's a lot of theories that Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope were talking about their own life experiences through the music. There's speculation that they were talking about the direction they were going with the music and the style. One of the biggest debates that I've seen is whether or not the music itself represents an actual carnival and beings that help herald juggalos to their life on the afterlife, their life after death. There's been talk about the cards themselves, that they bring us to our judgment when we end, the course of our lives. Over the course of the video series I'll be doing, you'll see and hear me talk about what each individual card means, what each individual card brings to the table, as well as the debate that each one sparks. I'll talk about my own experiences, and I'll provide experiences from other juggalos, as well as thoughts, opinions, and surveys, which I will need you guys for. Let's get to the nitty-gritty of the video now. I'm going to go over each one of the cards, my personal experience and stories and things like that. Starting with the Dark Carnival. There's been some debate that the Storm, which came out in 2000, around there, was supposed to have brought in the carnival. It was supposed to have been the precursor for the carnival itself. Been a couple of albums regarding there. They kind of set the stage. They told the story of how ICP climbed the ladder to success and the things they had to go through. Talking about the carnival itself, this is something that my boy, the Boy Blue, will resonate with a little bit. You'll see it in some of his videos, talking about whether the carnival is real in the way that other religions' afterlives are real. There's been a lot of argument in the Juggalo family about this. There's some petitions going around trying to make Juggaloism a registered religion in the United States. If that's something you feel strongly about, look those up and sign those petitions. Each signature helps. Mostly what I'm going to be talking about with these cards is my own experiences, and that's the things you're going to see from these. Starting with the first one, the Carnival of Carnage itself, it sets the stage for the rest of the set. It's believed to be a physical place on another plane that we experience in our afterlife. When I encountered the carnival for the first time, and each time thereafter, it was presented to me as a normal carnival would be, except it wasn't open. There wasn't a soul in sight. All the lights were set up, all the lights were on, the rides and tents were open, but there was no one there. There was no one working. There was no people. It would have a yellow and purple sign attached to two very large posts at the entrance of the carnival that would simply read the Dark Carnival or the Carnival of Carnage. Depending on the experience I was having and which card I would see would depend on how the carnival felt. Sometimes I'd feel peace and serenity as I walked through, and sometimes it would just be really frightening. I'd be fearful and anxious. The carnival itself, I found, really presents itself as a physical being. It's usually the carnival. It's usually the whole experience. You can usually feel it when you enter the gates. However, I have seen myself, and I've heard of other juggalos talk about a physical manifestation of the carnival. These are through dreams mostly. And I have felt the living, breathing carnival without that manifestation. But it's there. I'd love to hear about your experiences with this card specifically. Leave me video responses and comments. You can post on the Facebook page. You can send me a message personally. Anything you feel like doing there. The next card would be the Ringmaster. The Ringmaster made the carnival really very real for a lot of juggalos. I personally have not had a lot of experiences with this particular card. I can tell you that the Ringmaster sets the stage for the other cards. Usually when I've encountered the Ringmaster, he's introducing another card to me, the same way that a Ringmaster at a normal carnival would introduce an act. Same way he would introduce a show. Sometimes the ringmaster will show you specific memories, sometimes good, sometimes bad, to set the stage for whatever card was coming to you then. He's assumed to be the leader of the carnival and the boss for the other cards. He's the guy to go to. He's the guy you see when shit's about to happen. Effort to quit smoking right here. The next card is the Riddle Box. The Riddle Box followed the Ringmaster and was actually met with a lot of support. You'll see a lot of juggalos that resonate very well with the Ringmaster card. I'm one of them. The Riddle Box looks very much like an old-fashioned jukebox, an old-fashioned wooden jukebox. And he's green and purple. You'll see a faded question mark on the side of the box. The Riddle Box itself can be very scary for a lot of juggalos, me especially. I walked into a dark room, or in my case a tent, depending on which time I saw him, and I saw a big Jack-in-the-Box sitting in the center of the room. The only light in the room was shining right on this box. I heard an old eerie child's tune playing, and that old Jack-in-the-Box handle starting to turn. The more it turned, the more the music played, the scarier it got. The interesting part for me, and this presented itself weirdly, is that the Riddle Box will show you two things. I've never experienced one of these things. I've only the good part of it. I've only experienced the bad. The first one is that the Riddle Box will open, and a lot of juggalos have said that they saw the face of God, or they felt Shangri-La. The other part, and this is a scary part for me, mine wasn't with Shangri-La, it was with Hell's Pit. And it's said that when the box opens, you'll feel a madness start creeping from the inside out of you. This was the case for me. I could feel the madness start to creeping, and I turned around and Hell's Pit was waiting, which I'll talk about in another card in this video. As the handle's turning before the box opens, you yourself start to go over every memory that you have, every good thing, every bad thing you'd ever done, weighing it, trying to figure out what's going to happen, and you get scared, and you get anxious, and you get fearful. But it's going to be what it's going to be. These dreams can be an eye-opener for a lot of juggalos. I know it was for me. A lot of things in my life changed when I had that dream. The next card that I'm going to talk about is the Great Milenko. Kind of going in order. There's a lot of data about the Great Milenko in the juggalo community. A lot of people say that this is the only evil that you'll really see in the Dark Carnival. The Great Milenko is supposed to be a trickster. He tricks her and shows you things that you don't really want to see. He tries to throw curveballs and make you slip up. What I've noticed about the Great Milenko is that he is supposed to be the worst part of ourselves, the part that we try to hide and push down, and the part that we don't want to see. In my case, the Great Milenko presented himself as a female. It was in a dream, and it was pretty scary, but it showed me that I had the strength to stand up to the evil in myself, and I had the strength to correct it, which is something that I hope a lot of other juggalos find. The Great Milenko does not usually present himself at the carnival, although I've seen it a couple of times. What I've seen with the Great Milenko is that he'll usually present himself somewhere familiar to you. In my case, it was a family member's home. I have another friend who presented himself on a street corner in our neighborhood in a psychic's tent. The Great Milenko can be a scary card for a lot of juggalos because we have to confront the evil within ourselves, in sometimes in the worst way possible. The next card I'm going to talk about, and this is one that scared me pretty bad because I actually saw a manifestation of this card in my waking mind. I was not asleep when I encountered this card, and that's the Amazing Jekyll Brothers. The Amazing Jekyll Brothers kind of brought in a new era for the Dark Carnival. For the first time since the set started to release, the battle for good and evil and for ourselves was exposed. The Amazing Jekyll Brothers are supposed to be twins. There's one good and one evil. Jake Jekyll is supposed to be the good brother. Jack Jekyll is supposed to be the evil one. I'm tired and it's late, so I hope I got that right. Like I said, I'm tired and it's late. Now, I know a lot of people, both juggalos and not, that have had physical, real-world experiences with this card. I myself am one of them. In my personal experience, this is just my experience, and one other juggalo who was with me. I lived in a really small town in Tennessee, less than 2,000 people, and we were walking through, and there was a house fire, a big 2-story building pre-house, and it was really on fire. And in a little town like that, that's something you stop and look at. So we stopped and we looked. We started to get a little scared because we saw fireballs popping up out of this building. And we seemed to be the only ones that really noticed that. I think I heard the firefighters mention something about a gas line or something, but they were coming out in a pretty regular pattern. When we looked up at the building, we started to hear a maniacal laughter, and we started to get really scared, and we saw two faces. We saw one laughing and one crying, and needless to say, we ran. The story behind the Amazing Jekyll Brothers is that Jack Jekyll holds fireballs that represent every sin and every bad thing you've ever done in your life. And what he does is he throws these as curveballs at Jake, and Jake has to catch them. Now, a big debate in the Juggalo community is what exactly Jake represents. I believe that Jake represents our strength and the goodness in us, and whether that can counteract the sin and the evil in us. Jack will throw these curveballs at Jake, and Jake will have to catch and juggle them and hold them and keep a steady pace. If he drops one, then that means Hell's Pit is your destination. If he can hold all of them, and he can juggle all of them, and he can keep up the show until Jack runs out of curveballs, Shangri-La is your destination. That means the goodness in you and the strength in you was better than the evil. Like I said, there's been a lot of debate. I would really like to hear some of the stories of my viewers on the Amazing Jekyll Brothers and all of the cards, of course. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Wraith. Now, there's been a lot of debate on the Wraith about whether the Wraith itself is two separate beings or one. I believe personally that it's one being manifesting itself in two separate ways. But that's just my personal opinion. I have had two experiences with the Wraith, one with the Wraith of Hell's Pit and one with the Wraith of Shangri-La. Unfortunately, my first experience was with the Wraith of Hell's Pit and the Riddle Box experience that I mentioned to you earlier. And I had said that I turned around and Hell's Pit was standing before me. That would be the Wraith of Hell's Pit was standing before me, hand down, fingers spread. And I felt a sense of peace and sorrow as I walked up to him. But while I've heard some juggalos say that the Wraith of Hell's Pit is considered to be a malevolent or angry being, I did not feel that. What I felt from the Wraith of Hell's Pit was sadness and great sorrow. I could almost see a tear falling from his hood. I took his hand and I woke up from my dream. Now, the Wraith of Shangri-La is another story. The experience I had with the Wraith of Shangri-La was shortly after my daughter died. I had fallen asleep for the first time in days, and I was standing at the gates of the carnival, and I had my back to the gates of the carnival, and when I turned around, there I saw Jake Jekyll, and he was holding my daughter in his arms, and my daughter was laughing, and she waved at me. She was 5 months old, just the age she was when she died, and she waved at me, and I waved at her, and she smiled, and I felt a sense of happiness, and Jake started to walk through the path of the carnival, going to a big tent in the middle, and I followed, and as I stepped through the opening of the tent, I saw Jake Jekyll holding my daughter, and standing before him was the Wraith of Shangri-La, and I had a little bit of fear, because the only experience I'd had with the Wraith was with the Wraith of Hell's Pit, and obviously I'm a mother, and I don't ever want my children to experience those kinds of things, but when I saw the way that he reached for my daughter and the way that he cradled her, I knew that the Wraith of Hell's Pit was not the one that I was seeing. He looked at me, and again, I felt great emotion coming from him. There was both sadness and joy. My daughter waved to me again as if she was waving goodbye, and she smiled, and I saw the Wraith's robe circle around both of them, and they went up to Shangri-La. It's one of the best experiences I've had with the carnival. It brought me a lot of peace and gave me a little bit of closure after my daughter's death. Coming to the end of the video, the point I found with the Dark Carnival is that it shows us what we need to do with our lives. It shows us the good and the bad that we experience, and the good and bad and all the choices that we make. I believe that it is there to help us make better choices and be honest with ourselves. Like I said, there's a great debate about whether or not it is an actual afterlife, the way that other religions have them. I'm not going to get into that in this video. I will in others. I would love to hear your thoughts and your responses about each of the cards, your experiences, your thoughts into the debates. Always remember to like, thumb up, comment, and subscribe on my videos. I also have a Facebook page, Juggalos at Night. Go ahead and like that. I'll be posting updates. I'll have things on that. Sometimes I'll have contests. Look forward to that. Again, I'm Rose Red, and I'm coming to you for Juggalos at Night. Whoop whoop, and much clown love.